Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Tourism. Does he stand by his statement that, quote, New Zealand has some big competitive advantages, unquote, in tourism, including, quote again, our unique Māori culture and its stories, unquote?
My apologies. I thought the member was seeking a supplementary question. That is question number 8, the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes.
Kelvin Davis.
How is the Minister demonstrating the competitive advantages of our unique Māori culture and its stories if Māori are barely represented in an event as significant as the Real New Zealand Showcase?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, because the government's spending $4.5 million on the development of the Māori Tourism Action Plan. Mr. Speaker, the government's spending $2 million on the pavilion, actually, which I know members on the other side are deeply opposed to. But, Mr. Speaker, also what is occurring during the Rugby World Cup is there are a huge number of events around New Zealand where Māori are participating, and if the member wants me to, then I'm more than happy to table that enormous list of events. But just to give him a flavour for some of them, they're occurring a Māori Arts Market in Porirua, there's a Tribal Rugby Festival in Rotorua, there's just a whole bunch of them. I'm more than happy to table them.
Kelvin Davis. Order. Kelvin Davis.
Why, aside from a few brown-faced waiters and a bit of music, did Māori and Māori tourism have no significant presence at the launch of the Real New Zealand Showcase?
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I noticed that you were straining. I think we were straining to hear as well, and we're not very far away from the member.
Order. No order. I will invite the member to repeat his question, and while members may not have liked it, the question must be heard so long as it is in order. Kelvin Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why, aside from a few brown-faced waiters and a bit of music, did Māori and Māori tourism have no significant presence at the launch of the Real New Zealand Showcase?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I repeat what I said earlier. During the Rugby World Cup Festival, there will be many events. The Real New Zealand Showcase is by sector, for which Māori are an important part of each of those sectors and play a part. And, Mr. Speaker, I really think if the member's going to have a chance on what is obviously his attempt to get his profile up before the by-election, he should ask better questions.
Order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Kelvin Davis.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't receive the answer to a question.
Order. Now, order. Order, there will be no comment. The member should reflect on the question he asked. And I invite him to do that and think about the question he asked. And I could have perhaps even ruled it out, but I allowed the Minister to answer it, and perhaps the answer the member got was reasonably mild considering the question. Question number, supplementary question, is it? To Kelvin Davis.
To the Minister, what percentage of government funding does Māori tourism receive in comparison to mainstream tourism?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't have that exact number to hand. I'm more than happy. Well, I don't have every number to hand. What I do know is I know when a boat would leave if I was going out on a reality TV show. I'd know that, Mr. Speaker, but I don't actually know every single one of those numbers. But I do know that we are spending $4.5 million on Māori development in the Tourism Action Plan, and I do know that a lot of work is done with the 100% campaign to use the imagery of Māori, and I know they are deeply involved in many of the sectors of the Real New Zealand Rugby World Cup program.
Kelvin Davis.
To the Minister, why should Māori believe this government values our contribution to New Zealand when financial support for Māori ventures such as Māori tourism, in comparison to mainstream tourism, is almost non-existent?
Mr. Speaker, one, because that statement's not true, and secondly, Mr. Speaker, because when this government stood up and said we're going to have a pavilion to promote Māori on a prime position at the viaduct during the Rugby World Cup, all his members could do was make some cheap shots. So Māori know who support them when it comes to tourism. It sure as hang isn't Labour.
Question